Guiding and motivating students is a more explicit activity online than it is in many classrooms. In face-to-face contexts, we provide many verbal and visual cues to support students. We nod, we smile, all small gestures that serve to nudge the students in a particular direction and always forward. Online, these cues are difficult to replicate, but there are things we can do to guide and motivate. Clarity is everything. Perhaps one of the most important elements in guiding students towards success in an online environment is clarity. Students who are not surrounded by their peers and are unable to seek immediate visual reassurance from each other or from the tutor can rapidly feel confused and bewildered. So it is absolutely vital that your expectations of students are made clear at the outset. You cannot assume that students will have read all of the course guidelines, and so it's important to clarify your expectations of them. Keep on clarifying. This clarity, whilst it's important at the outset, remains crucial to ensure the student stays on track. Whilst we do want students to be independent and autonomous learners, we have to recognise that for many this particular mode of learning creates challenges. So you should carry on throughout the module being as clear as possible in your instructions and your expectations. This is where working in a team has its advantages, in that one member writes something and everyone else in the team can proofread and ensure that what is written is absolutely clear. You should avoid giving instructions that require excessive interpretation, unless that is an explicit implication drawn from an intended learning outcome. For example, in the vast majority of cases, it is unwise to ask students to, quote, write a short piece, close quotes. How long is short? What kind of piece is required? It's almost always the best policy to spell out explicitly what is required. So one might ask students, for example, to, quote, write a short piece between 350 and 450 words, with references where appropriate on whatever the subject is, close quotes. Even better, it would be sensible to provide some context for the activity that you're asking students to engage in and linking it to learning outcomes. So one might set a task that states, quote, in order to refine your ability to provide a clear synopsis of complex documents, write a brief summary of between 400 and 500 words of the following policy document, drawing out the key implications for your clients and making references to external documentation where appropriate. Modelling behaviour. One of the best ways to guide students in their online activity is to model the behaviour that you want. In the online environment, you still retain the voice of authority, but it's wise not to overcompensate for your lack of classroom presence by being overly dominant. Instead, lead by example. This means providing well-structured forum posts with references where appropriate and supportive language in response to others. You may find at times that you need to guide the behaviour of others, particularly in discussion forums. You might have a student, for example, who uses capitals excessively in order to make their point. And this is tantamount to shouting in a classroom and can become quite annoying for other students. Try and message or email the student and just point out the conventions that you're trying to apply. If you realise that you didn't state these expectations at the outset, it's probably not too late to clarify to the whole cohort. Motivating. The majority of our students who are pursuing a vocationally focused award are largely motivated. Nonetheless, motivation ebbs and flows, and it's wise to try and keep track of students' level of engagement with the programme. You can use the tools within the VLE to track students' engagement, whether they've logged on or looked at particular activities, for example. Depending on how your module has been configured, you may also be able to see whether particular elements have been completed. If you've taught a particular module before, you may already be aware of motivational hurdles, those obstacles that students face and frequently lose heart over. Just as in an ordinary classroom, you need to ensure that there is particular emphasis made on the learning purpose of the activities you want students to engage in. Make it clear that the rewards of persisting outweigh any immediate pain. Congratulate, but sparingly. Most people like to be congratulated when they do something well. It's a natural human response to feel motivated to keep doing what you've just done well, so praising students individually and as a cohort is a useful technique. If you're in the habit of posting a weekly summary of activity, then being positive and use your language carefully to motivate. Alternatively, you might identify some of those motivational hurdles and provide a cohort summary at chosen moments to help students to get past those particular obstacles. In order to retain its motivational value, however, it's a good idea not to congratulate continuously everything students do. Students soon sense any insincerity, and excessive congratulations will merely become an annoyance. Planning for hurdles. Before you even start your module, you should plan for the level of intervention anticipated to ensure students remain motivated. Be as clear as you can at the outset of your expectations of students' engagement, and ensure that all of the activities you expect students to complete are explicit in their instructions. It's also wise to anticipate the ebbs and flows of student motivation throughout your module. If it's a brand new module being taught for the first time, then it would be wise to try and design as many options for tracking engagement as possible. Guiding is about clarity, and motivation is about retaining engagement. The two are very closely aligned.